I'm delighted to support Climate Week NYC 2015. This year's Climate Week comes at an especially important time, less than 3 months before the Paris Climate Change Conference. And so the aim of Climate Week is one that I am delighted to support. Devolved governments, cities and business leaders should all be making the case for an ambitious agreement at the Paris Summit, one which is capable of limiting temperature increases to below 2 degrees Celsius. Here in Scotland, we are determined to lead by example. In 2009, the Scottish Parliament unanimously passed world-leading climate change legislation. Using 1990 as a baseline, we committed ourselves to reducing greenhouse gas emissions by at least 42% by 2020 and at least 80% by 2050. We are already more than 3/4 of the way to the first target, and we are confident of achieving it. There are 2 reasons why we see this leadership as important. The first is very simple. Action on climate change is the right thing to do. The consequences of climate change are already being felt. For example, an increased incidence of heat waves, droughts and floods. They have a particular impact on developing countries, those who have done least to create the problem. And the people who suffer the most are often the most vulnerable, the very young, the very poor and the ill. Women are disproportionately affected, since they are often the main providers of food, fuel and water. The scale of the injustice is massive. That's one reason why Scotland was the first national government in the world to establish a climate justice fund. As a developed country, we understand our obligation to help developing countries adapt to the effects of climate change. But there's also a second reason why Scotland is showing leadership on climate change. We know that moving to a low-carbon future isn't simply a moral imperative, it is also a massive economic opportunity. As figures from the Climate Group demonstrate, the low-carbon economy is expanding rapidly. In Scotland, it's one of the fastest growing parts of our economy. It already employs almost 50,000 people. For example, Scotland is a world leader in green technology. In fact, we now generate almost half of our equivalent electricity needs from renewables. In a few years' time, we expect that to be 100%. So the message we're promoting is that rapid action to a low-carbon economy will benefit everyone. It tackles climate change, develops new technologies and creates new jobs. In all of the work Scotland's doing, in agreeing climate change targets, in promoting climate justice, in developing low-carbon technologies, we want to work closely with governments, businesses and non-governmental organisations from around the world. That's why Scotland is proud to have been a member of the Climate Group States and Regions Alliance for a decade. We've also signed the Under 2 MOU, an initiative which sets out the importance of keeping temperature increases below 2 degrees Celsius. We understand that devolved and city governments from around the world have an important part to play. We need to lead by example, and we also need to let national governments know that we want a strong agreement in Paris. I hope that Climate Week NYC plays an important part in promoting that message. So I am delighted to support this initiative, and I look forward to working with the Climate Group in the months and the years ahead.